How's everybody doing today? Remember a couple weeks back when I made my Shaolin Chronicles video? It was one of those videos where I've had the thought in the back of my head to make it for a while, but I was afraid it wasn't going to be received very well, so I was always hesitant on taking the full initiative to actually put it out there. And man, am I glad I did, because the support on that video was incredible. I really want to give a genuine thank you to everyone who took the time to watch it all, or even some of it. It really means a lot. Something I noticed in the comments section from that video is a lot of people didn't even know Shaolin Chronicles even existed until they watched my video. There were even a few people who didn't even know Showdown existed and thought Chronicles was the only one. So it got me thinking, I wanted to make another video about a series that I don't think I've ever seen anyone talk about in detail on YouTube or any social media platform. And to keep it in theme with the Shaolin series in a sense, the series I chose takes inspiration from Chinese culture as well. That series is The Life and Times of Juniper Lee, a Cartoon Network show that initially I thought only had 2 short seasons to it, but in actuality had 3 seasons with around 40 episodes total. Maybe I just didn't have the TV on a lot around that time, but it felt like the show was hardly on or just aired at weird times. Because of that, my memory on the show wasn't the best, so I binged it all in the span of a couple days. I'm definitely more informed about specifics, but since I binged it all so quickly, there may be some minor things I leave out, so I apologize in advance. You're of course free to leave a comment saying what I might have left out if you like. The show essentially revolves around Juniper Lee, a girl who lives in the fictional area of Orchid Bay City, which is based on San Francisco, where magic and monsters exist. As the newly appointed Taishuanzi, which can be read as either the Chosen One or Magical Protector, Juniper Lee tries every day to juggle her normal life as a young kid with being the balancing force between the world of magic and the world of humans. Creator Judd Winnick has went on record saying The Life and Times of Juniper Lee is more or less like Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets The Simpsons, which I can definitely see. Although it may not be directly inspired by this show considering when it aired, Juniper Lee gives me Danny Phantom vibes as well, trying to balance a life of a normal kid while fighting monsters/ghosts, and only having a select few people know about your powers. A new main bad guy for each episode with no true overarching main villain, unless you want to count Auntie Rune since she was the main villain for the last episode, but she only appeared once before that, so. Plus that last statement was eventually voided in Danny Phantom's case with the introduction of Vlad Masters/Vlad Plasmius. The way the show tried to address how June should deal with this balance felt kind of weird at times. Anytime she felt conflicted, she would go to her ama, Jasmine Lee, aka the former Taishuanzi, and most of the time she would essentially tell June to suck it up because it's her destiny and such, which is understandable since she was chosen against her will in a sense, but at the same time, she's only 11, dude. Anytime June went to go deal with monsters, she would usually be accompanied by her younger brother Ray Ray, a super rambunctious kid who was always eager to partake in magical adventures no matter how scary or dangerous they were. He always seemed to find something positive in them, which I really liked. Although he's sometimes envious of June that he wasn't the chosen one to be the Taishuanzi, he still cares for his sister a lot and wants to help her with her missions as much as possible instead of sabotaging them out of jealousy. As for how Ray Ray is able to see magical monsters too, there was a point when June got attacked by demons who tried to drain her powers when she first got them, and when Ray Ray intervened, some of those powers got transferred to him accidentally. This doesn't seem to have affected June's potential though. And the other main character to accompany them is their dog Monroe, and
I fail to see why I have to attend a party of one of your prepubescent cohorts.
Monroe, you may be cute with a cool Scottish accent, but there's only one talking dog I've pledged my loyalty to, and I'm not going to budge anytime soon. Monroe is over 300 years old and has acted as the guardian of the Taishuanzi for centuries. He acts like the voice of reason of sorts amongst the group due to how knowledgeable he is, but a lot of the time he's not taken seriously by June or Ray Ray because, well, he's a dog. At times it feels like he takes his job a little too seriously, like when he refused to translate ancient language for June in the Skater episode because he just didn't feel like it. Just translate it, man. It's just a sentence, and it'll help her with her grades. The side characters in the show are pretty solid as well. The main ones are June's friends, Jody, Ophelia, and Roger. Even though Jody was June's best friend, I think I liked Roger and Ophelia more as standalone characters. Ophelia being goth is already enough for me to love her, and Roger's outlandish antics were a good way to balance the group with comedic relief. Jody's just a pretty normal girl, and the whole dynamic between she and June is usually Jody trying to hang out. June has to ditch her for Taishuanzi business. Jody gets upset, but eventually forgives her. That's been a thing since episode 1 and continued to be a trend throughout the remainder of the show. In the last episode, it was sorta implied she found out that June had powers, but since the show ended, that was never explored upon further. June also has a couple more family family members, like her older brother Dennis, who I couldn't really stand at first because he acted like a complete dick for pretty much no reason. But he eventually redeemed himself after he learned about Jun being the Taejwanse and became a sidekick of sorts like Ray Ray, trying to help keep the balance between magic and humans. Her parents, Michael and Barbara, act like your typical cartoon parents, not a whole lot to say about their personalities. The thing with Michael, though, is he's Jasmine's son, but he has no idea about the world of magic and never learned about it either. He didn't even make an appearance in the series finale. It's not his fault that he never got magic powers, it's just that the Taejwanse has been a part of the Lee family for multiple generations, so I found it kind of odd how the entire family wasn't aware of this. At the very least, I think Dennis and Michael should have been aware since the beginning. It would have been like the American Dragon Jake Long treatment, where everyone who's blood related to the grandparent would know about the magic stuff. The crew just didn't do that with this show, and I found that a little strange. I think it would have made for better episode potential if the father found out about everything at some point too, and, you know, maybe Dennis knowing from the get-go. Hindsight Harold, I suppose. Hindsight Harold. Even though I say that, they never really ran out of new/creative ideas for each episode. A lot of these one-off monsters were incredibly creative/memorable. Like Skeeter the Mummy, who after being awoken by a dark cult turned out to be a hillbilly who opened a Waffle House operated by zombies. Or when Jun and her class went to sing for the elderly when a dropped amulet from one of the residents unleashed a bunch of Viking spirits that possessed Jun's classmates and wreaked havoc on Orkin Bay. To another when Loki, the god of mischief, broke free from imprisonment and Jun had to get help from Thor to bring him down. I love how they gave Thor a dude bro surfer voice in that episode too. It was pretty funny.
Because I got my trainer, and not after 11 because I need my beauty sleep, okie dokie. Great seeing everybody. I'll catch you later.
The big cast allowed there to be some pretty funny running jokes/gags in the show too. I think my favorite was Roger always trying to get Ophelia to be his girlfriend. I remember in the Dream World episode, Jun entered Ophelia's dream that looked like a happy dream, but it turned out to be a nightmare where she was dating Roger. Or Jasmine being incredibly athletic and outgoing for a senior citizen. Like anytime Jun called her on the phone, she was always doing some crazy thing like climbing a mountain or jumping out of a plane. I've always had a soft spot for the extreme Daredevil grandma trope in animation. Characters like Arnold's grandma, Granny Puckett from Hoodwinked, and Grandma Flynn from Phineas and Ferb were always so cool/funny to watch whenever they were on screen. A lot of these episodes I've mentioned are from season 1, but the later episodes definitely had some solid creativity as well. Take the season 2 episode, The Great Escape, for example. This episode revolved around magical creatures that are disguised as zoo animals. They're being forced to stay there against their will because of an evil zookeeper who's really a demon named Gigi and is draining their energy to stay young. She even turns Jun into a lemur at one point, prompting Ray Ray to take charge and saving her. And even though Ray Ray never truly got to be the Taejwanse, unless you count the episode where he was it in an alternate universe, he still had really great moments. Characters like Lilo would eventually be added as a somewhat regular side character in season 3 to spice things up a little. I thought she was pretty cool too. Because she was a Sasquatch, she was able to see monsters without technically being a magical creature. She was just an advanced animal. Kind of a shame she only appeared in 4 episodes though. It would have been better if she appeared sometime in season 2 and stayed a regular from there, rather than the 30th episode overall when there only ended up being 40 episodes total in the end. At times, romance would be teased with Jun having a crush on a classmate named Marcus. Hey, that's me. Just spelled differently. And it was pretty clear he liked her back, but nothing was really done about it. A lot of the time, they just acted really awkward around each other since they were too nervous to express their feelings, which was pretty much the extent of it. In the episode Dream Date, it did seem like some development was happening, but it kind of fell flat in the end. Although there were some decent comedic moments in the show, I think the comedy was probably the weakest part overall. They seemed to rely a lot on pop culture or real-world references to get jokes across, and it felt a bit excessive at times.
No sale. We're all sort of big. Oh, I had an uncle who played for the Celtics.
This mummy dude is like... He's like Darth Vader with his whole breathing heavy and strangling guys with the mind control. But you kids are the stormtroopers. Well, Babe Ruth, there's a 3,000-year-old mummy raising the dead and cooking waffles.
I don't mind those references every now and then, but it felt like they would do this at least once per episode, sometimes twice, and it got kind of old. The action scenes were always on spot, though. Jun's parkour style of fighting and movement had a very Spider-Man-like vibe to it, which was always a treat to watch. Not every fight was decided by who could hit harder either, which made fights feel more memorable with all the variety. Creator of the show, Judd Winick, has quite the resume to his name, if I might add. Before creating Juniper Lee, he worked on DC comic series like Green Lantern and Green Arrow. And after Juniper Lee ended, he became became a producer for the adult animated comedy The Awesomes, which aired on Hulu, Teletoon at Night, and Adult Swim. I've never seen an episode of the show, but it seems like even though it had well-known names working on it, like Bill Hader, Rashida Jones, and Kenan Thompson, the cast couldn't carry it all because Hulu canceled the show after season 3 due to low ratings. Even though Juniper Lee had a solid premise with solid creativity with each episode, I think one of the reasons it didn't become as memorable today is due to how many other insanely good shows were airing at the same time as Juniper Lee. It got overshadowed by shows like Foster's, Codenamed Kids Next Door, Billy and Mandy, Ed, Edd and Eddy, Teen Titans, amongst others. Each of those shows had a leg up on Juniper Lee in some shape or form, in my opinion. I have a feeling even Danny Phantom doing what Juniper Lee did, but in most ways better, had an effect on the show's memorability, even with Danny Phantom being on a different network. I think if Juniper Lee had some kind of overarching main antagonist that had a big end goal it was working toward to build up to until the series finale, the show could have had more success. I feel like a show with that kind of premise works better with a progressing story rather than a more episodic style. But even with no main end goal for the main protagonist or main antagonist, the show still had continuity within the universe. Characters like Skeeter and Auntie Rune would make more than one appearance with characters remembering who they were. Auntie Rune would have been the perfect character to serve as the main antagonist for June, though it really sucks how she only appeared in 2 episodes across 40. Jodie permanently learning about June's role as the Taishwanzé would have been nice too. She did technically learn about it in Ding Dong the Witch Ain't Dead, but Jasmine rewinded time as if that never happened because she couldn't allow people outside the family to know about magic. All in all, Juniper Lee was a solid watch, but due to other shows overshadowing it, along with the story not taking extra steps to greaten its potential, it became a distant memory in most Cartoon Network fans' heads, or even completely forgotten by others. I definitely don't think it deserves to be forgotten though. It definitely aged well. For those who haven't seen it at all, I think it's worth giving it a shot. Even though I personally think shows like Danny Phantom or American Dragon Jake Long did better with the general premise of all 3 shows shared, not everyone is going to have the same opinion as me. There's definitely a possibility some of y'all could end up liking it more than those shows. Of course, for those who have seen it already, I'd love to know your thoughts about it. Do you think it still holds up pretty well in 2021? Do you like it more than shows like Danny Phantom or Jake Long? Or did it not age as well compared to other mid-2000s Cartoon Network classics? Of course, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like down below and another quick reminder to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. But for now, I will see you guys next time. Peace out, take care, bye-bye.